Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing the nightclub tag. This tag was created by Brian at BellTube and I was kindly tagged by Aaron Hook. Thank you Aaron for the tag. I'll leave links to both Brian's channel and Aaron's channel in the show notes down below, as well as a copy of the prompts if you are interested in doing the tag yourself. Let's get going. Question number 1, cocktail hour. Name a book that you think pairs perfectly with your favorite drink. Now, normally you will have noticed that this video is going up a bit later than I normally do videos, but this prompt gave me some headaches, which normally these kinds of questions do. So I was thinking, okay, so my favorite drink is Dr. Pepper. So what book reminds me of something that is both sweet and spicy, peppery? And I immediately thought, okay, so history is out because no work of history that I've encountered gives me that feeling. And in a way, I don't think manga is quite appropriate here either, because my reactions to reading manga are very different and not really appropriate for the kind of nightclub that you're getting a cocktail at. My reaction to manga is very much a different kind of nightclub. So I was thinking, okay, so I've been gravitating towards something from the part of my library that I call classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama. And I was thinking, well, maybe The Swimming Pool Library by Alan Hollinghurst. It's a gay novel set in the early 1980s before the AIDS pandemic about a young, wealthy gay man who is roped into writing the biography of an elderly gay aristocrat who has ulterior motives in having this young man write his biography. And even to a certain extent, their whole friendship is a setup for a big reveal. I was thinking, well, maybe that's could work, but then I was having second thoughts about it and decided that maybe a work of poetry, a slim volume of poetry, is really more appropriate for Dr. Pepper. So I began to gravitate towards the work of Austin Smith, Almanac and Flyover Country. And so I think I'll go with those two, Almanac and Flyover Country, which are both fantastic collections. And another would be maybe The View from Saturn by Alice Freeman, too. Okay, let's go on to Neon Lights, the second prompt. Name a book with a cover that immediately grabbed your attention like bright lights in a club. So for this prompt, I immediately gravitated towards Dan to Dan by Yukinobu Tatsu. Dan to Dan is a wild and crazy series about two teenagers, Momo and Ken, who goes by the nickname Okuran. Momo believes in ghosts. She's from a family of psychics, and she has latent psychic abilities. And Okuran believes in ghosts. Neither one believes in the other. So Momo does not believe in aliens. Okuran does not believe in ghosts. So they make a bet. Momo will go to a location repeatedly visited by aliens, and Okuran will go to a place that is repeatedly haunted. And they discover that aliens and ghosts actually both exist. Momo is captured by these aliens, and her latent psychic abilities are activated. And she begins to display powerful telekinetic abilities. Okurun, on the other hand, is possessed by an evil, crazy ghost named Turbo Granny, who has some weird obsession with genitals. And as a price of being possessed by Turbo Granny, Okurun temporarily loses his family jewels. And part of the plot is him trying to get them back. And as far as I've read, he's got 2 of 3 back. And hopefully he'll get the other one soon. But it is just, Dandanan is wild and crazy. And the covers, they are just gorgeous and wild, and they're very vibrant colors. And each volume also features several of the cast. So it's just wonderful. Prompt number 3, The Bouncer. What book did you have to put down because it just wasn't letting you in? So for this prompt, I could have gone with my most recent Bail, but I have a suspicion that that was definitely more of an environmental issue, and I will revisit that Bail probably sometime in August, depending on what my reading plan is in August. So I'm going to go with Indivisible by Joel Richard Paul, which is one of my more recent Bails. It's a history of the United States in the the first half of the 19th century, that had a lot of issues going in. Found a lot of mistakes. I didn't think the premise, which is sort of how Americans became, like the idea of American nationalism developed versus sort of American or citizens of the United States identifying more with their home states rather than the country as a whole. And I never felt, as far as I got into the book, that that premise was really ever being looked at all that deeply. And I bounced on Andrew Jackson, who is one of my least favorite presidents and perhaps subjects to read about. We shall see. Because there are a number of subjects in history that I do have a hard time with that I bounce off of. So those are my bouncers, which actually could be a video on its own at some point. Moving on to prompt number 4, DJ's Choice. What book would you recommend as the perfect read for somebody new to the fantasy genre? Now, this one is a bit difficult because fantasy is an incredibly diverse genre with a ton of subgenres and styles and ways of doing it. So would recommending Robert E. Howard's Conan stories work, or The Lord of the Rings, or perhaps maybe The Hobbit, or something more contemporary like Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames? It really would be down, I think, like as Steve Donahue would say, it really is more about how well you know the person who's asking you for a recommendation, because they might not necessarily come. I mean, because is there really one fantasy to sort of recommend to them all? I don't think there is. I don't think there's really any work of literature that would really fill that role. Moving on to prompt number 5, Disco Ball. Name a book that made you feel like you were part of a vibrant, glittering world. For this prompt, I'm going to go with another manga series, Eden Zero by Hiro Mishima. Up until a few weeks ago, Eden Zero was one of Mishima's current series. It's about a young man named Shiki who is the adopted grandson of an android named Ziggy, who raised him on a tourist planet populated by androids. One day, a young woman named Rebecca comes with her Exceed companion Happy to film videos for her B-Cube channel. The androids seem to malfunction and try to kill Rebecca. Shiki rescues her and Happy, and they flee the planet. And together, they go on an epic quest to find Mother, this gigantic planet-sized goddess figure with a quirky found family of uh, other adventurers. It's an amazing series, and it's really vibrant and glittering, and it's amazing. Um, Prompt number 6, Dance Floor Diva. What book had you dancing with excitement from the first page to the last? So here again, I'm going to go with manga and Black Clover by Yuki Tatsu. Black Clover is a series, and also My Hero Academia. I'll go by Kohei Horikoshi. I'll go with both of them. So Black Clover is a fantasy series set in a fantasy world about two young men, Asta and Yuno, in a world in which pretty much everybody has magical powers. Asta is an anomaly in which because he doesn't have magical powers. Meanwhile, Yuno is a prodigy. And so one day when they're getting their grimoires, which is a means in this world for for wizards to sort of enhance their spells, Asa doesn't get one. However, his lack of magic allows him to gain possession of a mysterious black grimoire that has within it an anti-magic sword. And this anti-magic sword allows Asta to go toe-to-toe on an equal footing with more powerful wizards. And Asta aspires to be the Wizard King, the leader of the Magic Knights within the Clover Kingdom where the series is set. And I've been following Asta Black Clover for a few months now, and I'm loving this series. I basically hoovered up the first 35 volumes in a few months, and I've got 12 more volumes to get caught up. I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to read those 12 volumes because volume 36 is scheduled to be released in early January. So that's about 5 months away. So I'm not entirely sure if I should go ahead and do it, read them in August or wait until like September or October or even December. But I don't think I'd be able to wait that long. And My Hero Academia is a superhero-inspired fantasy series set in the distant future. And it's about a young man named Izuku Midoriya who is born quirkless in a world in which 80% of the population has a superpower called quirk of some kind or another. But Izuku admires superheroes and he wants to be one. And one day, an act of bravery inspires the greatest hero in Japan, All Might, to take Izuku on as an apprentice. And All Might grants Izuku his quirk, One for All, which provides a series of various superpowers. And this allows Izuku to go to UA, the premier school for aspiring superheroes in Japan, and become the superhero Deku. As the world inches towards chaos, as various villain factions make a play for power. both Black Clover and My Hero Academia are amazing series, and both of them, as I read them, I'm buzzing with excitement. They are so wonderful. Prompt number 7, guest list. Which author would you invite to an exclusive book-themed party and why? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not entirely sure I would actually throw a book-themed party. I mean, we had a bunch of guests over. I don't know. These kinds of questions usually throw me for a bit of a loop. Although I do know for sure what I would try to do, whoever I decided to invite, which would be several authors, because really, is it a party of 2 or is it a larger party? Who are the other guests? But I would try to cook something, because I've been dying to cook for more people than just for myself and my mother for quite a while. One of these days, maybe. Anyway, moving on to prompt number 8, VIP entrance. Which book did you feel privileged to read before it became more widely popular? For this prompt, I'm going back to manga. And I'll go with Gechiakuta by Kei Orana, which has just recently begun a US release. So far, there are only 2 volumes. It's about a young man who lives on a floating habitat over another planet. And the inhabitants of this habitat have the habit of throwing their garbage over the side of the habitat onto the ground of this other world. And they also do this to criminals. And one day, the main character is falsely accused of a crime and is exiled, banished. And so he winds up on the surface and discovers that he has superpowers and joins this group of people like him who provide services to help fight garbage-created demons. So far, I've really enjoyed the series. It's really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to the 3rd volume, which is coming out this week. Hopefully my copy is not too damaged, because it will be coming with other items. And it will be my last book haul in this apartment, because I'll be moving early next week. So that's something to look forward to. Prompt number 9, dance battle. Which 2 characters from different books would you love to see face off in a dance battle? I think I would like to see Grateful Buster from Fairy Tale face off with Lemillion from with I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Let's move on to prompt number 10. Midnight Read. What's a book you couldn't put down and ended up reading all night? The 2 books that come to mind are the 2nd and 3rd books in the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. R. Martin, Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords. However, I didn't read the books fully. the thing about the Song of Ice and Fire series is that they are immense books, nearly 1,000 pages each, and populated by a ton of point of view characters, many of whom I am not particularly interested in. And so I very much skimmed those chapters, if not outright skipped them, and then skimmed the chapters that I was mildly interested in. So, yeah. I'm not entirely sure how to explain that. Let's move on to prompt number 11, After Party. What book left you with a hangover, unable to start a new read immediately after finishing it? That doesn't really happen with me. I basically, like, when I finish a book, I'll be done with my reading for that day, unless it's like manga or some volume of poetry. Then I can move on to another one, depending on what day of the week it is. But if it's like, say, a work of fiction or nonfiction, if I finish the book, then I'm pretty much done for that day, unless it's like during the weekend. Well, even during the weekends, the time I finish the book, it's usually I'm done reading for the day anyway, so this doesn't really affect me all that much. Prompt number 12, Late Night Conversations. Which book left you thinking deeply or wanting to discuss it with others late into the night? I'm not sure. On one hand, I think definitely manga, because I can get pretty worked up when I talk about manga. And sometimes I get that same feeling with history. But I don't really have many people in my real life who I would want to talk about these things. They're not, most of them aren't terribly bookish, and those that are, their taste in books are very much not my taste in books. So that leads me to prompt number 13. Tag some people. So I'm going to tag Greg of Another Bibliophile Reads, Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics, and of course Steve Donahue. And anybody else who would like to, and Angelia Read and Reread, and anybody else who would like to do this tag. But those four I will leave in the show notes as well. So anyway, BookTube, this tag was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I actually managed to do it today, because this tag was a bit challenging, and this day was a bit challenging too, given the fact that I spent about an hour and a half on the phone with the internet company trying to get them to change service, and I ended up, I think, getting some services that I don't necessarily want. So anyway, I will be back tomorrow with hopefully some tag videos, but for sure one video that I want to make. So until I see you tomorrow, BookTube, thank you, have a great evening, and stay safe.